You wouldn't think it, but a hairstyle can tell more about you than words can sometimes. Think about it. How we style our hair, our choice to cut it, our choice to dye it, or our choice to do nothing at all tells our own personal story. So it wouldn't be any different for our friends on the silver screen. Teams of hairdressers work with filmmakers to further project who a character is, down to the most minute detail. And Luca Guadagnino's Challengers makes a meal out of this particular type of storytelling. Challengers is a romance sports drama that follows the whirlwind relationship between three world-class tennis players. Art Donaldson, played by Mike Feist, Patrick Zweig, played by Josh O'Connor, and Tashi Duncan, played by Zendaya, that spans over a period of 15 years. Bless Luca Guadagnino for finally giving us a true love triangle dynamic where all sides touch.
I want two boyfriends, and I want the boyfriends to be boyfriends, and I want to be their girlfriend, and I want the boyfriends to take me out on little boyfriend dates.
Most of the film's most immaculate hair story is centered around Tashi, but the boys have their own thing going too, in more ways than one. The beginning of the film takes place in the present, establishing that Tashi is the driven wife and coach of her husband, Art Donaldson. Art is a great tennis player who's been on a less than great losing streak, so Tashi decides to sign him up for a low level challengers tournament where he unknowingly goes head to head with his and Tashi's old partner, Patrick. And then we jump back in time to the year 2006, where the trio first meet. We first see Tashi on the court, in her element, in her domain. This is where she is perhaps the most comfortable, which is an interesting juxtaposition to how her hair is. In this scene, her hair is slicked back in a high ponytail, not a hair out of place, using what I imagine is no doubt a titanium grade edge control. The film's hair designer, Massimo Garabruzzi, said to Glamour magazine, quote, "We saw tennis players with long hair and long braids, and it impressed us, this powerful hairdo. In the beginning, she wore one long, very strong wig, and during the tennis matches, she was tied in a really tight, long, and strong braid. The choice to go in this direction was thinking about a determined person, a warrior. At this young age, she is powerful and wants to win." This is the first time Patrick and Art see her too, and they're immediately enraptured with her beauty and her game. I mean, it's really not that hard to see. But let's take a moment to talk about the boys for a second. Patrick and Art have a very stereotypical sporty white guy in 2006 haircut, with Art sporting the classic hat with wings sticking out combo later on in the film. They both don a messy, semi-curly, semi-wavy cut. You can just tell that they're young guys and they don't really pay attention to their hair beyond having it not impede on their ability to play. Let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to this. Later on, we're at a party Tashi is throwing, and we see her with her hair down and straightened, and at least 30-inch bust down. This hairstyle does have a level of precision to it, in that it's bone straight, but it's a bit more carefree and fun as she whips it around while she dances and walks about the scene. And if Art and Patrick weren't entranced by her before, they are drowning in their lust for her now. She's almost like a siren. In fact, the hair and beautiful Loewe dress that she's dressed in while perched on a rock in the scene where both Art and Patrick fall for her is essentially her siren song. It also reflects that she is on the clock in a lot of ways because this party is a party where she's meant to be schmoozing with sponsors. It's in celebration of a major campaign. It just shows that she is always working because she's the person who, according to Art, is going to make her family millionaires. But then we get to the scene. You know the one. While the hairstyling is the least important thing happening in this scene, at least to me, there's a small little detail that speaks volumes. Tashi's hair is wet and wavy. Assumingly, she's just gotten out of the shower and snuck over to the boys' room. This is her most rebellious look. Think about who Tashi is. She's a world-class young prodigy tennis player that's been at the top of the heap for years. She's making serious money for her family. This girl is disciplined as hell. So when presented with an opportunity to have a little fun with these little white boys, why wouldn't she let loose a little bit? Natural waves out and about, she's there to indulge in an albeit brief bout of debauchery. But never forget that she's still in control through this whole thing, and she will remain in control for the rest of this film. She might be letting loose for herself, but she's calling the shots with these two. We jump forward a little bit to Tashi and Art now at Stanford, and Tashi and Patrick in a relationship. The biggest part at this point in all of their lives is Tashi's career-ending injury that comes after she has an explosive fight with Patrick before a game and thus kind of splits the three off into their own paths for a little bit. During their fight, Tashi has a messy braid, a real melding of the controlled, dominant Tashi that we see on the court with her very meticulously slicked back, high ponytail braid, and the rebellious, out of control look from the hotel three-way kiss scene. Perhaps it's foreshadowing that she's going into this match a little bit off her game. Patrick and Tashi's fight underscores their tug of war of who is the talent in their relationship. You have Patrick, who opted not to go to college and went straight to the pros. And then you have Tashi, who is still a star but chose not to go pro yet. From Patrick's perspective, he's not wanting to hear any coaching from Tashi because he is in the pros and she's not. He feels like he's operating at a higher level of competition, so how would she be able to aid in his game? That, and he's trying to connect with Tashi in a way that has nothing to do with tennis, which he will quickly find out has no meaning to Tashi. From her perspective, she's no less of a pro than him. She chose to go to college. She chose to compete at the collegiate level where she will no doubt dominate all of her competition before eventually going to the pros because she wants to have more meaning to her life than being able to hit a ball with a racket. That, and she loves the constant competition between Art and Patrick over her, and Patrick really doesn't. He wanted to play doubles and she wanted to play triples. And for her, she can't not think about anything without retrospect to tennis. Tennis is sex, tennis is love, tennis is life to her. Even their back and forth during the fight is like a great back and forth during a set, each throwing jabs at each other. And that last look that she gives in the scene lets you know that this was a set that she lost. Now she goes into that game and she's forever changed. Taken out of the game that is her life, and for the first time in her life completely unsure of what to do. Completely out of control. It's also at this point that Patrick steps out of her life and Art comes more clearer into focus. Perhaps one of her most poignant scenes in the film is what I like to call Tashi's moment of surrender. At this moment, she's not the polished athlete, hair in a strong high ponytail braid, warrior look that she had. She's got her hair wavy and a loose, low, messy bun. Almost as if she frustratingly put it up to have it out of her face. She sees no use in doing the same meticulous routine she did when she played. What's the point now? She finally succumbs to the fate that her career is over. But notice I didn't say that she accepts that fate. The rest of her life will be marked by her rebellion against this very fate. She will always rage against her unwilling consent never to play again. A real shortcoming of the film is not more moments like this for Tashi where she has bits of introspection, but this scene is incredibly special in the grand cornucopia that is this movie. We hop forward years in time. Everyone's out of college, Art has now joined the pros, and Tashi is now coaching. She's technically a hitting partner for another player, but she's a coach if she's making this poor girl run drills at the crack of dawn. This is where Tashi and Art reconnect after all of this time, sporting a new look. Her hair is shorter and curled manually into a longish bob. She's got that youthful, carefree look, but the control is coming forward just that little bit more. And she's also a little bit more mature at this point. She seems a bit more resigned and not quite the fierce player that she was, but that fire truly never went out in her. She's just a bit softer now. Not weak, just a little bit more vulnerable, making room to rekindle or kindle a partnership with Art, both professionally as his coach and romantically as his girlfriend turned wife. The long bob is a haircut you get as an adult that balances the youthful carefree look of long hair while maintaining control and practicality. After her sudden career-ending injury, Tashi's left to reckon with this as well as the ongoing love triangle that she's embroiled in. When something life-changing happens, the first thing that we do to move forward is change. And the quickest way to do that is with our hair. We all know someone or have been someone who thought that bangs would fix everything. Maybe she'll find comfort in settling down with art. Maybe being the doting partner and coach to Art, making out in Applebee's parking lots and watching him shine in the pros is exactly what she needs for this new chapter of her life and her turning over a new leaf. But is it? It's not. Godbrusi calls this haircut, quote, a temporary moment, the temporary part of life. With this haircut, we also see her and Patrick reconnect after all of these years post her injury. She and Art are now married. After years apart, and they think without Art's knowledge, Tashi and Patrick rekindled their connection physically. While the haircut marks a new point in her life, there's some things she just can't let go of. While Patrick was not willing to be her lapdog and yes man, she liked his willingness to compete with her. She always admires a competitor, someone who wants to win and will do anything to do it. And that's what she feels like she lacks with Art. Art is always willing to listen to her. Art is always willing to take heed to her advice. Art doesn't push back, but Patrick does. And that's what she likes. Coach and married life isn't enough for her. She's still that girl in that hotel room, calling the shots and wanting more. And thus the game between them intensifies. Art and Patrick for years maintained a similar haircut, perhaps always tying them together, showing that they always share something between each other with those shaggy mops on their head. But now, in the present day, there's been a rift. Art now has a short aerodynamic haircut, the cut of an athlete that has optimized almost every part of his body and being to get better at his craft. Art, under the tutelage of Tashi, takes the top supplements, constantly trains, is the face of a foundation, and is the vision of the perfect athlete, husband, and father. Just not the picture of the perfect winning athlete, husband, and father. But Patrick has remained the same. The same shaggy haircut that they both had when they were kids, Patrick still dons today, now with a patchy beard to boot. And this change, or lack thereof, really marks the difference between these two. Patrick is raw talent, and Art is hard work. Art has to work to be good, whereas Patrick doesn't have to. But that's just it. Patrick has never had to work hard. So what happens when that well of raw talent dries up? You've got no drive behind it. Hence why in the present day we find him damn near begging for half of a breakfast sandwich of the woman signing him up for the Challengers tournament, while Art lives a pretty lush life. Now add in the Tashi of it all, where the two have been somewhat unknowingly carrying on a dynamic with her for all of these years, and you see that they are oppositional yet still compatible forces. While Art has ire for Patrick, whether caused by his treatment of Tashi or the rift of their own partnership, they still know each other like the back of their hands. Their connection as partners, both off and on the courts, has never and will never go away. Also in present day, we finally see Tashi in her final form, the blonde, grown woman Bob. It's at this point in the film where you truly see that Tashi has completely relented to her ever getting back on the court. In her prior two hair eras, there was a glimmer of hope that maybe some miraculous circumstance she'll be able to finally have that pro career that she had been working for years. But the grown-ass woman Bob that Tashi has now is that of a woman who is locked in. Tashi is a coach, Tashi is a wife, and Tashi is a mother. This is the Bob of someone who's not playing around. There's nothing really natural about this hair. It's cut short and meticulously wand curled throughout. This took time and manipulation to achieve. This is a style meant to convey that she has it all together, even if she doesn't. Tashi is an athlete who was taken out of the game too soon. At this point in her life, she's taking back control and playing a years-long game with Art and Patrick. And this is one game that she doesn't intend to be taken out of or lose. Tashi is always one step ahead of both of them. One step ahead of Art in her still entertaining Patrick and eventually being willing to train him, and always one step ahead of Patrick in that she used her rekindling with Patrick to help Art secure a win that he so desperately needed. The three of them have been rallying between each other for 15 years now, morphing into different versions of themselves but always playing this game. And the final scene, the winner didn't matter. What mattered is what this moment gave to each of them. Art finally gets a win over Patrick. Patrick learns to take advice, something he initially rejected. And Tashi finally got to see some good fucking tennis, with her crisp, rich woman bob and all. Like I said, hair always tells the story.